back to The Real Deal and we're continuing the series on reinvention. And as we've gathered by now, this is a global look at reinventing oneself. It transcends recovery. This is beyond recovery. But of course, thanking to Palm Healthcare, we're here promoting a lifestyle of transformation. And one of the beautiful things about this opportunity today is we have a very special guest, our illustrious alum, Barry. And Barry is going to share with us his story, and we're just going to have a conversation. We're just going to talk about where you were and where you're at and where you're going. So thank you, Barry, for coming. I truly appreciate your long jaunt. I think you're the farthest commute we've had, all the way from Alabama.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for having me on here.
Thank you.
It's the first time. I feel kind of special.
But you should feel special because you are.
You know, it's a good 11 hours to get here, really.
In a row?
You know, we had to stop when you have two screaming kids.
Yes.
So little hotel stoppers made it pretty good.
Right on.
But to start out where I was at, wow.
Like what brought you to the point at which you're willing to do something about the situation you were in?
All right, no, absolutely. I was in a dark place. All started with, I guess, in high school. Just starting out with a little weed, little shrooms, little pills here and there. Didn't think nothing of it. Thought I was a typical high school kid. Like, oh, this is cool, you know, smoking a little weed. This is normal. At least it was on TV and everything I see in the music.
Well, if it happened on TV, it must be true.
It must be, even if it says on the internet, it's true. So the internet told me it wasn't
TV's
too bad, so
more, yeah.
completely okay. But to go forward a little bit, I started using opiates in college. So that's where I found, you know.
Was there an injury or it just sort
There
of
was
made
an
itself?
injury
Okay.
when I was trying out for a football team. I ended up pulling my hamstring. And of course, my buddy was like, "Hey, I got these pills that will, you know, make that go away."
So it wasn't a doctor that prescribed
not
it.
a
It was a
doc-
friend who said, "Oh, pulled hamstring,
Mm-hmm.
oxycodone, right for you."
Somebody got them from the doctor, you know. So it's really
it must be okay.
Really the same thing. I didn't
Right.
have insurance, so
Okay.
it didn't matter.
Right.
But no, I started out with the Lortabs, and he was
Okay.
like, "Yeah, take a couple of these," and I was like, "Okay." So I took a couple, and I was like, "Hey, this ain't too bad. I'll take a couple more." That was probably a bad idea. I had to leave class because I couldn't stop scratching my nose. So I was kind of like falling asleep, like, "Hey, this is awesome." Like, who wouldn't want to fall asleep when you're supposed to be awake? You know, weird people. So.
Who does that?
So of course, you know, as I'm failing out of college, something went wrong. I don't know where that was, but I went back home. That's when I found OxyContin. Then I found out heroin was way cheaper. So I ended up getting arrested before I started doing heroin. Just, you know, underage drinking at a bar, tried to use someone else's credit card I found on the floor, which I thought was like, hey, here's free drinks for everybody. But it was kind of frowned upon with the court
really
system.
don't like that
So,
stuff,
no, they made me go on probation, take drug tests, which was kind of good because I ended up getting a great job working for Cisco, the food distributor. Not Cisco, you know, the thong song guy.
Right.
But, you know, thought it was just little misinformation, I guess. But no, when I was working there, about 14 months, I got off probation. Within a week of being off probation, and this whole time, I was almost sober the whole time. You know, they drug test you 3 times a week, 4 times a week, did shrooms or acid a few times in between there. But then, you know, within a week of being off that, which I thought, I'm sober, I'm not doing anything. Within a week, sticking needles in my arm of OxyContin. And, I mean, that's how long it took, just a week.
Wow.
So that lasted for a few months, but that got expensive. And then I found out heroin was way cheaper. So I started doing heroin. Then I ended up losing my job, stealing from my family, friends, anybody that I could steal from. Then I got this good idea, let me just move away from everybody. That's going to sober me up, for sure.
So when you did that, did you feel like you wanted to be sober, you wanted to be off what you were doing, or were you starting to also kind of recognize that the drugs and alcohol weren't the problem, it was just dealing with whatever your mindset was at the time?
Not yet. It was just, hey, I just need to stop doing the hard stuff, and I'll just smoke weed and drink a little bit and move away from everybody, the geographical change. So I thought, hey, I'll go down to South Alabama, Gulf Shores, Mobile area with my old roommate from college. So detox myself, wasn't very pleasant, but hey, I was strong-willed. I can do this on my own. All my friends are going to rehab, but I thought I was above that. I don't need rehab to help me. I don't need other people.
So
help
you
me.
had other friends, were they being successful through their treatment?
No, they all kept coming out and saying, hey, relapse is part of recovery, so I'm going to get high with you. So I was like, no one, why would I go to rehab for that? So I moved down there and, just I weaned myself drinking all the time. Because in my head, hey, drinking's okay. Drinking's not bad. Heroin's bad, not drinking. Drinking's legal is the way I was thinking.
Right. And how old were you at the time?
At the time, I was 21,
Okay.
maybe 22-ish. So I thought it was okay. All my friends were down there drinking. They're living successful life. Well, what I thought was successful life.
Were they going to school still?
They were going to school, had jobs, which I thought was successful. I was like, hey,
Right.
I couldn't have a job. They have apartments they're living in, which their parents were paying for. But, my distorted way of thinking was still going on then. So it was, drinking, smoking weed like a normal person, because I thought that was normal. Within about 4 months, maybe, someone at a bar had some Lortabs. It's like, sure, I can take a couple. I was a heroin addict, not a Lortab addict. I can do this. So within probably 3 days of doing that, I started shooting Roxy's because they were cheaper down there. There wasn't no heroin. So that's what I started doing. That lasted about a month before I got arrested. I'm trying to remember in order which time I got arrested. So I got arrested that time I was drinking and driving, had pills on me. So I got arrested, but 3 days later I got out of jail. Someone else bailed me out, not my family. Went and used money family gave me to get my truck out of the impound to go buy more Roxy's.
Okay.
So then, stealing from my best friend from college down there, calling my family, trying to get them to send me money. And at first they would, a little bit, $20 here, $40 here. Hey, I need, sometimes $100 if I was lucky. Hey, I'm a little short on rent. Still not thinking that I had a problem. Wasn't crossing my mind.
Right.
And I started stealing from everybody again. The people I was living with, their friends.
While you were doing that, what was your relationship with yourself as you were doing those behaviors, as you were stealing and that kind of thing? Like, were you aware that what you were doing was probably not the best thing? Were you able to ever catch yourself? Like, do you recall what your experience was just with yourself during those behaviors?
At the time, I kept myself so numb, so I didn't feel it.
Okay.
I would be lucky to have an hour a day not under the influence of something.
Okay.
Because I'd wake up, I would start feeling kind of guilty, like, man, I'm stealing from my best friend, but I'll pay him back sometime. But it was just in the very back of my mind that, like, I was, I guess, dead inside to the most point. That's why I was using so much to make me feel better.
Yeah.
And I talked to my parents, and they eventually caught on again. This wasn't nothing new to them.
Were you living at home or?
No, I was still living down with my friends
Okay.
in South Alabama.
Right.
But then I started stealing people's checkbooks, people I didn't even know from other people, and I ended up getting arrested again. This time they left me in like a week and a half before my parents got me out. So I got out, somehow made myself back up to my part of Alabama again. And within a week, no, maybe a month, I was arrested again. Or actually, I got out of jail in South Alabama, went back to Alabama, and then got arrested. Central Alabama, got arrested again in like a month. But this time, I was in jail like, man, maybe I should, stop doing hard drugs. In my head, it was still
not
drinking
the issue, right?
and
Yep.
smoking weed was going to be okay. But my dad mentioned some place to me, Teen Challenge, which is like a year-long rehab. Which I was like, no, I'm not going to go. I'll stay in jail. I didn't want to go to rehab.
How long were you going to be in jail for?
I didn't know. I knew my mom would eventually get me out of jail.
Okay, so yeah, you were kind of betting on
Yes.
that kind of support.
I'm the youngest of four, the
Okay,
only
so
boy.
the
I'm my
baby.
mom's favorite.
Yeah.
Like, my family ever sees this, we all know. It's not a secret. Like, everybody knows, oh, Barry's mom's favorite. Well, yeah, y'all are mean girls. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so-
what was your relationship like with your family while?
well, my oldest sister was like, you better leave him in jail. Don't get him out of jail.
Okay.
I think she was like going through law school at the time. So she didn't have, the patience that my mom did. And
Right.
one of my other sisters, she always wanted to help, but she didn't know how. and another one of my sisters was in California at the time or some other state. She didn't know what was going on at all.
Right.
So the family, they wanted to help, but they didn't know how. They never reached out to nobody.
Right.
And my dad was a drug user for like 30 years. So he was against rehab because it didn't work for him.
Was he sober?
Yes, he's been sober, I guess, 10 years now.
Okay.
Because me growing up, it was more of like I didn't see it or understand it till I was like a junior in high school.
Okay.
That he was, he quit drinking at one point, so he'd had a few years sobriety here and there.
Did you ever use or drink with him or anything?
I did when I was in college. We ate some more tabs, and he didn't really like drinking then. But, we had a few pills together just a couple times, which he still feels bad about to this day. Like, he feels like he's still got to make up life, with me.
How do you feel about that?
I don't blame him at all. It wasn't his fault for my choices.
Right.
But me being a father now myself, I can understand where he's coming from. And when I didn't have any kids, I'm like, dude, it's fine. Like, it's not your fault. Like, let's just move on. Which we have a great relationship now. It was strained, when I was using drugs, obviously.
Yeah.
Because when I was using drugs now, I can admit I was a terrible person. Like, I don't know why anybody would want to hang out with me.
That's hard to believe because everything I've known about you, you've been amazing. Like when you were in treatment, you were rock star. Like you were one of the best leaders we had, and you really rallied the troops. And I could never imagine you being other than the awesome guy that I've known you as.
Well, we'll get to that. What got me down there? So somehow I started going back to church when I got back there because they sent me. I went to this year-long rehab. Lasted like 30 days. Got kicked out for smoking cigarettes and not doing what I was supposed to do.
Are they gonna let you smoke cigarettes there?
No, they didn't. So I ended up getting home, and I never even thought like my parents wouldn't let me back, which they let me back, but apparently my dad didn't want to. We're gonna have to, I guess, babysit me. Is what we look at it now in recovery. They were gonna try to babysit me.
Be a halfway house.
Be a halfway house. That's basically what it was. I went to work with him, started going back to church, and that's where I met my wife, we knew each other from high school. I graduated with her cousin, who me and him did drugs together for years. First guy I ever did, shot dope with. But I started going there, and I was involved. Everything was good. I wasn't using, but I wasn't doing anything else.
So you were just sort of white knuckling it, or just
I
trying
guess,
to out of sight, out of mind?
That's what I was trying to do, is keep myself busy. I ended up getting some type of other job temporarily. I don't remember what it was, but I started, going to church, dating her. Well, then, I don't remember what happened. I was like, hey, I want to go get some heroin. It'll be this be okay this time. I'll just snort it.
Okay. Do you remember that moment when you made that decision?
I do.
What led up to that? Like, what was going on in your head? Because the prelapse was right before that, right?
Yeah.
So we want to catch where it was going on in your head. And I'm only asking you because perhaps there's some other people who could go, oh, wait, I've been there before, and maybe they could catch themselves. Is there a time you could have caught yourself before that?
I think so, is when I hung out with a friend at the bar, and people were drinking. Hey, you can have a beer or two, that's okay.
Well,
or you can smoke a little weed with us.
dropping,
And I was like, no, I don't want to drink. Didn't want to drink. But I guess it was a couple days later, I'm like, I guess I could do a little things. I'm not going to go downhill, and I'll be under control. I've actually heard that from 2 people I've met this week, being back down, of old friends of mine, that have started drinking, but it's going to be under control this time, which I didn't hang out with them long after I heard that. But no, that was the prelapse of being around other people using, thinking, hey, I can just use a little bit and it'll be okay. So downhill, started stealing from my girlfriend's parents. Stuff at their house.
Your now wife.
Now my wife. Yes.
We'll hear more about that, I'm sure.
You'll hear more about that. I even started stealing from the church that I was going to. So once everything hit the fan, the Scott Fowler, he was the pastor. He's been there for 20-something years. Great friends of my wife and her family. It's like, all right, you need to go to rehab, or we're going to report this. So I went to another year-long rehab. Made it about 30 or 40 days, but I was cured.
Oh.
Yeah. I just knew I
Went
had
to that
to.
one.
Yeah, I had to work all the time, and I would not do drugs again. So very easy fix.
So did you leave, or did they ask you
No,
to leave?
I left.
Okay.
Because I was fixed. I
Right,
was ready to
okay.
go.
But you made the decision. It wasn't like the last one where they asked you to leave.
And I was like writing letters back home to everybody. Hey, I'm good now. I'm sorry for doing this, this, and this. Same old, hey, I stole this, pawned it. They got it back out and pawned it again. So, making all my amends because with 30 days sober, I thought I could do all that.
Yeah.
But I did not need a sponsor. I did not need anybody else to help me because I'm a man. I am, I can make fire, build will. I'm a man. I can do anything. So I didn't need anybody. The day I left with that guy, we ate his mom's methadone in the car. So didn't even make it back to anywhere before I was getting high again. So I convinced my girlfriend to let me move in with her again. And, well, actually not first. The church let me stay at one of their little places. It's called a manse.
Did they have like a sober thing, or it just was a place
No,
to
it was
crash?
just, like they use it as an office. Now it used to be a house. So it's just, people kind of use it. That lasted like a couple days before I convinced my wife to let me, or girlfriend at the time, to move back in with her. But by then, when I was using, I felt terrible. Like, I remember stealing her debit card and actually crying on the way to go get money out of the ATM. Like, I felt that bad. I was actually feeling bad about doing stuff, which wasn't normal. I was like, wait, why am I feeling like this?
But you were still, it wasn't powerful enough to overcome that need. You just
Not even
were
close. I just needed to
experiencing
go get more drugs to make it feel better.
Yeah.
But eventually ended up stealing somebody's truck to go get drugs, which I was just borrowing it, but they found out, so I didn't return it. I just kind of left it. So I ended up getting arrested again. I called my girlfriend right off the bat because I could manipulate her. I was living with her. My parents were always calling her, he's using, don't let him live there, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not using. They're lying. I'm fine. It's everyone else is the problem because she kept wanting to help me. Hey, why don't you stop doing drugs and, come to church more, talk to people, share your
And she
feelings.
never used
My wife has
together,
never even been drunk in her life. She's never used a drug, never been drunk. I think she may have drank a beer once or twice in her life.
Okay.
Maybe, if that
Right.
much. So this was all new to her. So she's never seen someone like this. And of course, I knew that after a while, hey, I can do anything. She'd give me money, give me rides. But she got at the end, where she stopped. And that's why I had to steal someone else's truck. I was, kind of couch hopping to see who would let me stay with them. But I remember, those nights actually feeling terrible. It started getting worse and worse. This is bad. I was feeling guilty. The guilt and shame started kicking in.
Yeah.
But that's when I got to use more to make that go away.
The vicious cycle.
Yeah, and I would still try to I've always been a perky person. Not just now that I've been sober, but when I was sober before I used drugs, I'm outgoing, happy guy.
Yeah.
So I still try to put on that persona, except, haven't showered in a week, weighing 130 pounds.
Right.
I thought I looked good.
You got a six-pack.
Yeah.
What are you
I was
talking about?
shredded. I don't know what the problem was. Shredded, really white and pale, but apparently that's not a good look these days. So.
I guess not.
Yeah,
Maybe
agree
not
to
for
disagree.
you, apparently.
Yeah, I guess not. So I ended up getting arrested again, and this is
For being shredded.
For being shredded. Yeah,
You were so shredded, you just...
Hey, that's illegal, buddy. You got to go to jail. So, ended up getting arrested, and this was in December of 2012.
For the truck.
For the truck,
Yeah.
yes, and I denied all of it, of course. Doing drugs. Nothing was ever my fault. So this time, nobody was getting me out of jail. It's been a week, and nobody will get me out of jail. So I'm calling other people.
Had you spoken to your girlfriend?
Oh, I called her. All right, well, kind of funny story. I don't know if it's so funny now. But I convinced her to let me go to work with her one day. And I was detoxing really bad. Just let me go sit in your car so I don't go use drugs. She'll probably get upset with this story, how was I that dumb? She'll say that now, but she was blinded. She wanted to help.
Of course, yeah.
Hey, he's in the parking lot. He's not going to get
Can't
drugs.
do anything.
No. Well, what she didn't know is that I had a spare key in my pocket. So as soon as she went inside to work, I took her car to go get drugs. But as I was nodding out driving, this undercover pulled me over. He flashed a gun and a badge and a BMW. I'm like, I can outrun him in this 1999 Ford Explorer or 2004, something like that.
yeah.
But I was like, I'm getting away from him. Maybe he's not a cop. That didn't work out so well. So when they stopped me, I ate the drugs. And I convinced the cop, well, let me call my girlfriend to come get her car, which apparently she was already reporting her car stolen.
Oh,
like
no.
she
Okay.
finally had enough of me borrowing the car.
Right.
But stealing, borrowing, there's a fine line there. I was borrowing it. I was coming back.
Right.
You know, if she just would have let me get high and give me money, we would have had no
There'd
problem.
be no problem. Man, is this all her fault?
Yeah, exactly. Selfish.
Carl for
So,
herself.
but the cop was super cool. 2 of them picked her up, and they like hounded her like, where's he getting the drugs? Where's he getting this? Why are you dating him? Which that happened more than once. So she came and picked up the car. So I talked to her. I was like, hey, call so-and-so. This is a misunderstanding. Because I've talked to the detective, like, we weren't going to get me in trouble for stealing the car. I told him where it was.
Right.
You know, I didn't know how it got there. Someone else stole it. You know, which was my story at the time. But, you know, apparently, like, evidence of you stealing the truck and me in it
Gotcha.
kind of got me. So could have been someone else that looked really good looking, shredded and pale white and sweating all the time.
They're
everywhere.
It's the look. Mm-hmm. It's the look. Yeah.
In Central Alabama, absolutely. So I called her within like 20 minutes of being in there. I don't have any money. Well, you get paid tomorrow. You'll have money then, you know, which would cover like all her bills she needs. But I thought I was more important than her bills.
Right.
She didn't get me out. Still don't know why. So I started going for my mom because she'll get me out. No, they're not getting me out. So a few weeks go by. I was in Christmas. I spent Christmas Day in jail because no one would get me out. I even missed the national championship game, Alabama-Notre Dame game, because I was in jail. So if that don't tell you something, that they leave me in jail for a national championship game,
They're serious.
that's serious. Christmas, hey, that's okay. You know, but this is Alabama football. You know, right here. We
Okay.
zoom in on that, roll tide. You know. So as I was sitting in there, called my mom again, or maybe she came to visit me when I was there, and she's like, hey, I've been talking to my friend Julie Queller, who used to own one of the rehabs that Palm Partners own now, the Orchid. She's the one who
Right.
started it. Her and my mom had been friends since she was 15, 16. Like, hey, if we can get you 90 days, well, maybe they didn't tell me the time, how long I'd be gone. We can get you down to Florida next week if you'll go to get out of jail. I was like, I don't need to go to rehab. Like, I've been in here a month and a half. I'm sober. I don't want to do drugs anymore. But why?
If you don't want to, you must not have
Exactly.
any.
Thank you. You know, where were you at to
I
come talk
don't
sense
know. I
to
mean,
my
it's
family?
as simple as that.
Very simple. So I was like, I don't need to go to rehab. And I don't know if I even said yes at that time. I may have had to call her back later because I had to talk to my cellmate because really good advice comes from your cellmate in jail. Like, if you can't trust your cellie, like who can you
Yeah,
trust
I mean,
in the world?
The world comes undone.
Because he was innocent too. I don't know
Right.
why he was in jail. So I was thinking, like, you know what? I guess I'll just tell him I'm gonna go to Florida for rehab. But my plan was I was gonna go sleep on his mom's couch, my cellie's mom's couch.
Happened to be in Florida?
No, he was in Clinton, the same jail I was in.
No, but when you said you were going to be asleep, oh, you were going to get
I was
out
gonna
and
tell
then just
them I was gonna go
got
to
it.
Florida, but go stay on their couch.
Okay.
Where his mom makes meth,
Oh.
and they told me I could,
Match
help
made
them.
in heaven. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, hey, I don't do meth. Like, this would
That
be
won't
great.
be a problem at all.
No, but while I was in jail, I remember, cold turkey detox. Not pleasant anywhere, especially not in a jail.
Yeah.
But I was in there. I started feeling bad and guilty. My wife wrote a lot of letters to me, well, girlfriend at the time. But I even got mad at her for not getting me out. So I didn't want to even call her for like a week. I was like, if I don't call her, like she'll get me out. But she didn't. My mom even told her, you should leave him. Now, me being my mom's favorite kid, like she's like, you should leave him before, you're stuck married to him for 20 years. You need to go. Which before this being in jail, I don't think I've ever had that much clean time. So maybe in 30 days at the other rehabs, but I left instantly. So I still wasn't planning on going. I told them I'd go. So they get me out of jail, and I was so happy to see my girlfriend and mom. They even had like a sun-kissed for me when I got out, which was awesome. And a
Is that
cigarette.
your favorite?
No, it's not my favorite by far, but when you're in jail for so long, like a sun-kissed,
Orange
I think
soda,
I think I've requested it. Like, yeah, I want that and some cigarettes. Even though
don't smoke.
well, at the time, I wasn't smoking in jail. Well, actually, we were allowed to have tobacco, like chew.
Okay.
We would roll it up and let it dry out and smoke it. So I guess I still was smoking. Tried to convince myself I wasn't. See? So I was like, the plan was I got out of jail that Wednesday. I was supposed to drive down Thursday to come down here. And I was like, I'm not going to go. I didn't tell them that. But something about the look on her face, when I saw her was like, man, I got to do this. Which, I get a little teary-eyed just thinking about it. Like, that's when it kind of hit me, but I still didn't think I had a problem.
Hit you that you were going to be doing this, or it hit you that there was an issue?
Well, that I'm going to go down.
Okay, so the reality of
okay, I'm going to go down because I don't want her to be sad again. So we drove down on a Wednesday. Got out of jail on Wednesday, drove in on a Thursday. They came and checked me in on a Friday, which when we drove up today, I was like, hey, that's the place that saved us. She's like, well, God used it. I was like, that's true. God used Palm Partners to save me. So when I got in there, I remember Chris Keys. I actually saw him yesterday. He was the guy that came up and was like, hey, can I take your bags? And I was like, whoa, like, why is this guy being so nice to me? Like, I was literally, like, a little creeped out. Like, wait, they're going to see him all nice, and I don't know what they're going to do. Run tests on me. I don't know what. Well, I just came from jail. They weren't ever nice to me, about anything. They called me Squirrel. Yeah, that was a nickname my cellie gave me. Yeah, I'm the bearded wonder here, but they called me Squirrel there. Well, my cellie was like, I'm going to make people call you Squirrel. I'm like, no, you're not. Within 3 days, every day he called me Squirrel. So I remember, going in that night, and everybody was so nice. I'm like, this ain't too bad. I'm smoking cigarettes, and I had a bed compared to a blue mat. Right. Which I was like, hey, this ain't so bad. And some lady, apparently I called her the wrong name for years. I thought her name was Brittany, but apparently it was something else. In detox, yeah. Whatever.
So, do you know who it was?
I can't remember her real name.
Oh, no. Is she still here? Did you see her?
I didn't see her here.
Okay.
I don't know if she's still here. She became, I think, a case manager at one time.
Was it Mary? You wouldn't remember.
I couldn't remember her real name.
Enough.
I thought her name was Brittany, dude.
Or Tiffany.
Not Tiffany.
What'd she look like?
She was short, my height, so short. Like longest brown hair, had freckles, probably in her, at the time, probably around 30 maybe.
I don't know.
I can't remember. She was a detox tech, and I think she became, maybe it wasn't a case manager, but she was doing something with pushing papers or up in the office, upstairs somewhere.
Fair enough.
So she woke me, hey, do you want to smoke a cigarette? I was like, sure. Like, kind of like, once again, why are they being so nice to me? And, I didn't have to detox, which they didn't believe me when I told them, hey, I can pass a drug test. Sure you can.
But they did give you an opportunity to, right? Because how long did you spend in detox?
Oh, just that night, just to monitor me. I remember the guy, having me take the drug test. It's okay if you fail it. I'm like, bro, I'm not going to pass a drug test. I'm not going to fail it. Well, it actually came up that I failed for meth. Because I guess I took some type of Sudafed or something, which I don't remember. I'm like, that's not right. I want to take another one. Eventually, they let me take another one, and it was clean. Like the next day. But I was like, this is wrong. I did not use meth. Like, I like heroin.
You almost moved in with her, but you didn't.
I didn't. Maybe just the thought of meth popped up. So I went over to the residence the next day, and that's when I met Justin. Like, as soon as I got off the van, this guy comes up talking to me. Now I think it was just for a cigarette. But, we've stayed in contact over the years, and he works
you
here
haven't
too.
given any more cigarettes, so it wasn't just that.
It wasn't just that. He probably got some more out of me, but I was from Alabama. He was an Ohio State fan, so we started talking about football. But, still hasn't hit me that I have a problem yet. Like, I was starting to feel good. Like, hey, I'm, so many days sober, like, getting my energy back, my color back. It's okay, this ain't so bad. And I remember people outside, like, chanting at night, my first night there. I'm like, what are they doing over there? The whole Palm Partners thing. Palm Partners? They still do that?
No.
Actually, they had to stop when I was there because they were too loud.
Yeah, it's tough. It comes in waves. Sometimes there'll be a thing that, for a little while, forget the client, but one of the clients had a thing where he'd be like marinating on something. He'd be like,
Yeah.
So then everyone, you just hear people going,
Something always comes around. But, my first week, I started having fun, and that's the guy you met, and I still haven't decided in my head that I was going to give up drugs, which a story I haven't told probably but one or two people. I actually walked in on my roommate shooting Dilaudidines when I was in treatment, my first week. Asked me if I wanted some. I said no and walked out. Don't know to this day why I said no, but I went back 20 minutes later, and he didn't have any more. So that could have ended everything. So that must have just been God taking care of me.
I was getting the
like, why? I don't know why I said no. Like, he's in there doing drugs. He got kicked out, obviously, like within 24 hours. Something quick like that. But in my head, I still didn't think I had a problem. I remember being in your class, the men's group, telling my story that led up there, and I kept calling myself a dope fiend. And you got mad about that. You were like, if you say that one more time, I'm going to scream. You're like, stop calling yourself that.
Yeah.
You don't have to live that way. You don't have to be that person anymore. Which stuck around with me for over 5 years now.
Yeah.
But, during that time, I still didn't think I had a problem. I was still starting to already call people to make amends because I had so much shame and guilt. And I think that's probably why I went back to drugs all the time, is because I couldn't deal with it. Me, growing up more of a, with my dad, like we didn't like show men's feelings.
Right.
And I wasn't, that way anyways. Like, hey, tough guy, playing sports, always doing tough guy things. Like, sharing your feelings wasn't something I wanted to do. Heidi told me I could change that. Because she told me, we were in class, like in this other room, it's like, it's not who I am. I can't just be that guy and share my feelings. She's like, yes, you can. It only takes a second to change the way you think. And I was like, maybe you're right. I didn't say that to her at the time, but now I can see it.
Right.
But it really took about 45 days of me being in treatment to realize I had a problem. So that's, almost 90 days sober already before it finally hit me.
When you're sharing that, have you spoken to other people who have also had that similar experience? Because while you had an interesting blessing that not everybody gets to have 90 days of treatment or even 45 days of treatment, have you noticed a trend, a thread that is true for other people? Like, have you spoken to people who've had shorter periods of time, longer periods of time where they've shared that? Like, I wonder if that number is, quantifiable. Say,
Yes.
after.
A lot of people that I still have, probably about 5 friends that I'm still good friends with today that have a lot of time sober. But it was around the 60 to 90 day mark before it kind of clicked with them. Now, some people, it's taken longer. So to me, hey, it was right around that 3-month mark. Like, man, I had a problem. I was the problem, which is what Palm Partners taught me, is that drugs weren't my problem, that drugs are my solution.
Right.
And the first time you said that, I'm like, this dude is crazy. He's got these crazy shirts on, you have some boots on, you wearing them now? No. But I was like, who is this guy? What is he talking about?
Yeah.
Like, drugs aren't my problem. Like, are you stupid? Like, the whole reason I'm in rehab is because I stick heroin in my arm. Right. But you were telling me the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Like, man, this guy, he don't know what he's talking about. So it took, I guess, a month and a half for me to realize, which...
I'm like a fungus.
You are. You just kept growing on me.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, what's that smell?
Well, you started smelling when I was laying down, and you said, this is starting
hey, this is good. Let me rub it all over me.
And it turns out it was a nice cologne.
It was. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any intentions on staying in Florida. Like every day was, I'll stay one more day.
Right.
And then I'll leave. Like, I was, no one else knew that, but that was my plan. Like, hey, I can make it down here in South Florida, like being homeless. Mm-hmm. But it finally hit me that I did not want to live like that anymore.
Was there something that happened for you that shift occurred? Do you remember a moment of that happening?
It wasn't an aha moment, like I wish it was, but it was just from talking to so many different therapists, to you, to Heidi, to Jerry. I mean, I used to call him Crazy Jerry. I thought this guy is ridiculous. Do 3 things every day that you don't want to do. Finally clicked with me probably 2 years later of why he was making me do that.
Wow.
So I don't know if I should share that now or let people catch it on themselves.
Well, anything that you share is appropriate, right? Because for someone, they may think, okay, I don't have to wait 2 years. Another person could have been doing it and going, just because I didn't get it yet doesn't mean I'm not going to. So there's never any right or wrong moment. Whatever you share is divine design, right? So this conversation is really just to celebrate your journey, and with the intention that someone else is going to go, okay, they may have their aha moment, or not.
Which at the time, he was like, make your bed, put your watch on your other hand. It was just little things like that he said. I was like, what is making my bed gonna do? And maybe what I get out of it is not what he meant to be, but it's worked for me. It was being an adult of doing things you don't want to do every day. And that's what he was getting you to do. which at the time I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't support anybody else. I couldn't support myself.
Right.
So him telling me to do 3 things every day you're not used to doing, I was like, that don't make any sense. But it eventually did hit me. That was years down the road of being sober. But
were you still doing things even though, for 2 years, were you doing 3 things a day that you didn't want to do?
Subconsciously, I think I was.
Okay.
But not like because Jerry told me to do them. Which when I was in the halfway house, I was doing them because Jerry told me to do them.
Right.
So somewhere between probably the last 2 weeks I was there is when I decided I'm going to go to a halfway house, which I didn't have any plans on doing that. And I think it was talking to Kevin Smith. He's not a therapist here anymore. He wasn't even my therapist. But
Great guy.
I just loved him.
Yeah.
So we would always be talking. And it was just like, hey, people tell me don't go back to Alabama, don't go back to those people, places, and things, which it finally hit me that, they're not all the problem's me, but I can't put myself in that position.
Right, because even though you may make some changes, and you do, but if you were to go back into that exact same environment, what would happen is the drift would be coming in quicker.
Well, the cycle of addiction, absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Because when I went out the last time, I started drinking on a Monday, with people from work when I was framing houses on the way home. By that Wednesday, I left to go get dope. That's how quick, that's the last cycle, and that's when it all went downhill again.
Right.
But while I was in Palm, when I finally realized I'm going to stay a little longer, I started looking to get my legal things taken care of, which Stephanie Harrigan helped me with a lot of it, who I believe she's still here helping people.
Yeah.
I still love Palm Partners. They did so much for me. But my way of thinking still wasn't completely where it should have been yet. It's still gradual, and that's what people got to learn is it's not like that.
Well, and that's the adulting part, right? Because I can think of, so you have a child, right? So your 2-year-old son, he wants what he wants when?
When he wants it.
When he wants it right
now.
Right? And the incremental sort of growth stuff he doesn't have access to, and that's appropriate for a 2-year-old. Not so much for a 20-year-old or 25-year-old where you're kind of going, you have to be willing to put that time in and not expect those instantaneous results.
Exactly. And when you're in active addiction, people don't want to hear it. You're a tiny toddler. You want what you want when you want it right now.
You're Cartman.
Do
what I want!
Yes.
That's what it is. You respect my thought. And it's just that little kid, that part of you is what takes over.
And it does. And you can't see that because your brain's distorted at the time. Which, me being clean those 3 months, when it hit me, my brain was clearing up. And it continued to get clearer. So when Kevin and Dr. John kept telling me, you got to get a job. He kept telling me about these phone rooms, which one of them was Dish Network, but my background is in maintenance and construction. I grew up working on equipment with my dad, doing odd jobs in the summertime. That's how I'd make money. So I was like, I'm not going to go work at a call center. But that's when I started taking people's suggestions because it finally hit me, and it's so cliche, my way wasn't working. And man, I didn't.
They call it a cliche because it's true.
It's true, exactly. But you hear the same people over and over, and 90 Days in Palm, I heard the same thing. People coming back, oh, take suggestions. I'm falling like, fine, I'll take them. Just like, stop telling me.
When you said people coming back, I don't know if you're referring to this, but how many people did you see in those 90 days? That's not everybody has that opportunity. Did you see come back into treatment after leaving after 30 days, and then while you're there, come back again in that? Did you see?
I saw a lot of them. Yeah. My roommate graduated twice before I ever did. Which eventually got to the point like, man, am I ever going to graduate here?
Well, but I bring that up because what you're sharing, the 45 to 90 days, is really where the magic is going to occur. 30 days is an arbitrary number made up by actuaries.
By insurance companies.
Right, who's going to save them money, not what's most effective. And we don't have enough necessarily case studies to document, to prove it enough, but you're at least showing anecdotally that length of time. That's why we offer Palm offers a guarantee. 90 days treatment, 90 days of coaching, monitoring, you do that, you're going to be successful, and you've proven it.
Oh, absolutely. And I probably saw over 10 people come back within those 90 days, and it was all similar stories. Oh, I went back to my hometown. I went back to my parents' house
Right.
with my same friends, and even like with them not telling me.
And I didn't even want to use when I left.
Exactly. I was so happy to go. I didn't want to use, but they'd come back for another 2 weeks. I'm cured, and some of them would leave. They wouldn't even graduate because they thought they had it again, that they were just going to take what they learned, go back home, and apply it.
Well, what's so funny is that if they really learn, so they say, like some people that'll happen. They'll say, oh, I've heard all this before or whatever, and I know this stuff, I just need to apply it.
Yeah.
If that were true, their application would be to stay in treatment.
Exactly. Which I think treatment of inpatient like I did, like pretty intense, should be a minimum of 90 days, because I started going to the same classes week after week, that I was able to practice what I learned in a safe environment.
Right.
Which I think is the key, because when you go out, it's just like with any job, when you start training, you're training with somebody. They don't just say, here, read this book and go do it by yourself.
Right.
And that's what I feel like when you go for a couple weeks of treatment and go back home, you haven't had time to practice what you learned, and for somebody to guide you,
Right.
to show you how to use them. It's like you have the tools, but you don't know how to use them. And I think that's one of the biggest things in recovery is people, they get the tools, they just don't understand how to use them.
And one of the tools, and I'm sure you'll get to it, is putting yourself in that environment that you're comfortable, but you're also held accountable.
Yes.
Like that connection, like where you feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable enough to then be held accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think 90 days minimum of inpatient followed by 3 to 6 months of halfway house. And of course, I think of it because it's what finally worked for me, but I've seen it with so many other friends that you got to have that accountability.
Right.
Because in a halfway house, hey, I got a job that I actually had to walk about 1.5 miles to a bus station every day. Never taken a bus in my life. I actually didn't make it to work on time the first time I took the bus. But I had to get on that and go down to Boca to a job, sometimes walk 4 or 5 miles home or catch a ride. And that's when I guess the adulting started to happen. But I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
I'm just thinking.
Well, it just reminded me about Justin, and we're going to do it. We haven't even done a thing with Justin. We should do it, one of these with Justin. When he came and worked for us, he was working in my office. He was taking a bus for I think 1.5 years because he didn't want to. He could afford a car. He now had a job. He had all of that. But he's like, you know what? I don't want that responsibility. And that was him adulting himself.
Yeah.
Right. And it's similar to what you just shared, like the going to the walking 1.5 miles, sometimes having to walk back, and that is being responsible.
And a big thing is because everybody was done enabling me. Now, Julie Queller, who got me in, they would get me cigarettes, which is, I think, is okay while someone's in treatment.
If that's what you believe in.
If that's what you believe at the time.
Right.
Which
and
I thought,
for them, too. Like, it's what we teach our families.
We're not,
like, do what you believe in. If you believe in smoking and providing cigarettes, that's not enabling.
No. So I ended up going into the halfway house, and I ended up getting a scholarship into a halfway house from Hassie Parsons, who used to work in admissions here. So that's someone else who just got me another scholarship. So that's something that drives me nuts, is that people are like, it's all about money. I'm like, it's not. You got people who want to help you.
Yes, 100%, especially here. I know that, we have to keep the place open and we are business.
Got to pay the bills, yes.
And we scholarship more days. We don't, if someone's insurance runs out, the first thing we do, we don't kick them out and be like, okay, you're done. We help you find a place. And I want to acknowledge you because the fact that someone went out of their way and did put their name on the line to get you the treatment that you deserved, that you took advantage of it, you didn't take it for granted, you didn't, because sometimes that's what happens, as I'm sure you've seen, where someone goes, oh, it was free, they don't value it. I really want to acknowledge you, and that's part of the adulting that you did for yourself, is that you recognize that just because it was given to you, that you didn't devalue it, that you took it as a gift and like ran with it and cherished it, as opposed to, which is why they continue to do it, right? If you had not done what you had done here in treatment, you wouldn't have necessarily gotten the support on your way out. No one would have put their name on the line and go, oh, yeah, he was a wreck in here. He took everything for granted. He was complaining about everything. Oh, by the way, I'm going to put my name on the line. Will you take this guy for free?
Exactly. That's what I tell so many people that I talk to, because, I still work in the industry, some to help people. But I was grateful every single day. And I was openly grateful about it, because I was so happy that, hey, I've never lived this type of lifestyle. Like, to me, like, living in was high class. I wasn't used to that type of living. Everybody being so nice, getting free, food. I mean, everything's free once you're in treatment. Your food, what you do.
Not to mention, it's little things, but like when Heidi and I first moved here, the first apartment we had linoleum floors, had what do you call the countertop that's not granite, what is that?
I don't know what you call it.
You know what it is, like the old 70s style, like with the plastic and all of that, right? I don't remember what that's called at the moment. Like Formica or whatever, I don't know. And like, crappy, like bottom of the line refrigerator and all that. And then we stayed one night at our residence. And it had leather couches, granite countertops, stainless
like
appliances,
tiled
bathroom. Like, what the heck is this? This is way better than where we're living.
You had cable TV while you were in there.
Yeah.
Just like you said, the little things. I was happy about the twin bed that people complain about. I was like, hey, this is better than the jail cell I was in, which people would say, hey, this is like jail. I'd be like, no, it's not. I'd be the first person to speak like, dude, you never been to jail. Like, but a lot of people weren't.
You keep using this word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Inconceivable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But people were coming in there that didn't know, like, hey, this is a gift. Like, they were so used to being enabled their whole life of getting everything they wanted. So they came in here just, I went with a guy who came in just to get money. His dad passed away, but in his will, he had to complete rehab to get it. So he was drinking at the airport right off the bat. Yeah. But back to me in the halfway house, my first, I guess, month or so, I was eating almost like peanut butter and crackers every night. Then I had enough money to get like sandwiches, because I only asked for money like once or twice for like $20 from my girlfriend at the time. I think my mom sent me $40 once, but I refused to go on food stamps. My therapist, Dr. John, you need to go on these. Like, you got to eat. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not taking a handout. Like, if I'm able to work, I'm going to do it. And that's why I didn't, I made like
another adulty moment.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I called like my nephew, I was apologizing for like stealing his like Xbox or something when I was in treatment. And my sponsor at the time was like, hey, you're not ready for amends yet. You shouldn't be calling people. So I didn't. But, when I was in the halfway house, I thought about it, but I knew like my actions are going to speak louder than words, because nobody was going to believe me.
Right.
I was talking to my wife the other day. She's like, yeah, I was just waiting for you to mess up again. So I was literally eating peanut butter and cracker. Like, that was what I was eating.
So while you were down here, you did 90 days of treatment, and your girlfriend, now wife, but girlfriend at the time, did she ever come down and visit? Did she?
She came down the day I got out of Palm Partners.
Okay.
And now I see this as a terrible idea. We stayed in a hotel for a couple days for her to see me before I went to the halfway house.
Okay.
Which now, they told me it was a bad idea, but I didn't see it then. Like, what are you talking about? Like, hey, I'm sober, I'm not going to use or anything. Like, all cool people stay in hotels out of rehab.
Right.
But that was really my sick way of thinking. Like, I didn't think it was a big deal.
Well, thank God you didn't end up, misbehaving to such an extent. But yeah, it's interesting how you look back now and go, wow, what was I thinking?
Most people in my situation didn't have a woman like I did, to where, don't do drugs, don't drink, don't do anything. Most people in this environment have other people like them.
Right. Well, and the fact that she was able to stick by you this whole time, and you were away all that time, then you stayed for halfway. So she's really like willing to go the long game with you, and it's got to be difficult for you both, right?
Yes.
Because you're obviously a very loving man, you value family, and you'll share. I want to acknowledge both of you for having that strength and that love and that commitment, and that's again part of the adultiness.
It was, and it's South Florida. There's beautiful women everywhere. Yeah. So a lot of people, in my same situation, ended up not being with the same person. I remember a lot of people at first told me like, "You're not gonna stick with your girlfriend." I'm like, "Yes, I am. Like, you don't know me. Like, I'm different, which I wanted to be at the time because everyone else, I was seeing a pattern of starting to use again, even people in halfway houses, which, my halfway house, I guess, I don't know if it's not there anymore. We'll tell you about it. I saw a lot of people going in and out, but the owner of the halfway house was awesome. There was a couple, but I'd go to pay my rent sometimes, and they would say, hey, you owe this much. I'm like, less than what it is. I'm like, no, I owe this much. This is what I want to owe you, because I was getting my integrity back. Because from being, a loser scam artist, I'd scam anybody. So I was like, no way, I'm paying what I owe. And they're like, Pat, the owner says you owe this. I'm like, okay, which, I didn't have much money. I was in the halfway house working, but I wasn't going to take any more handouts. Like, I knew, like, I had to be an adult now. I guess I was 25 at the time. And I'd come back multiple times to do that. And, hey, you owe this much. I'm like, no, I don't. And the owner says you owe this. I'm like, okay. And, like, me and him never even really talked about it. So after about 4 months, I moved out of the halfway house. With 2 guys I was in treatment with at Palm Partners. They've been at the halfway house a few months. I was like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm, fully self-sufficient. I even handled a lot of my court stuff while I was at the halfway house, like flying back for court and then coming back home, because I was actually terrified of being back home. Like, just driving through Birmingham, I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't be driving by this exit. Like, I actually felt bad. So I would literally go to court, come back home the next day. To get away from it as soon as I could. I'm like, I can't be up there. And it's South Florida. I mean, everything's like happy down here. But once again, that's how you make it with, do you want to be, are you grateful or not?
Right.
One's perception is one reality. Or what is it? One reality is one perception. Which one?
Perception is reality.
Okay. There you go. See? I knew you knew a thing or two.
Well, it just is. It's your, right? Like, I mean, like this.
It's your brain.
Right, and all it is it's got a blue thing on it, right? And from your perception, you're seeing eyes and a mouth and a nose, but it's your reality.
It is.
Right, so what happens is everyone's got their own perception, and it's their reality. That doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just our unique experience. And the problem is sometimes you could be telling me about the eyes, the nose, the mouth, all of that, and I'm like, you're full of crap. I don't even know what you're talking about. You need a UA. You are, you must be using again, right? And it's really it is your. Perception is 100%. It's the interpretation.
Exactly.
And the meaning we give it.
And you control all of that.
100%.
Which is what I learned from Stop Blaming Other People, that it was all me, which is hard to swallow, especially as a man, a prideful man, even before I was getting sober, that's just, I guess, instinct. Like, hey, we can do stuff. We're strong. We don't need help. But while I was in the halfway house, I didn't have a vehicle, so I bought myself a truck, got insurance and a legal driver's license, which at the time was huge. Like, I haven't drove legally in so many years. This felt amazing.
Yeah.
So to me, paying like my cell phone bill, I'm paying all my bills at the halfway house, which at the time I thought was a lot. Now it's like, man, I'd love to go back and only pay that to live and be an adult.
Yeah.
So the day I moved out, I went and bought myself a bed. Queen size bed. I still have it. But to, it's the little things. I went from a gel mat to a rehab bed to a halfway house bed. Not the best bed. So I was like, hey, I'm getting this. This is what I need. Like, I bought it for myself and I was so happy.
Pillow top and everything.
It does have a pillow top. But the guys I moved in with, their parents bought their beds, shipped their cars down. So it was less than being there a month. It could have been a couple weeks. I walked in, I could smell weed. They tried to lie and tell me it wasn't weed, but I knew. So I went downstairs, and the halfway house I went to, 2 of the techs lived there. I'm like, hey, can I come stay with y'all? Like, they're smoking weed. Like, I can't be around that. Like, I didn't know what to do, and I was almost scared to call and tell my girlfriend, like, hey, they're smoking weed. But I did call her, and they were telling, maybe you should go back to the halfway house. No way was I going back. This is going on, I guess, about 9 months of constant authority. Jail, rehab, halfway house. I was free. I could do whatever I want, whenever I want, and didn't have to report back to anybody. So like, there's no way.
For these 9 months, are you now working a program, or you have I think I remember you saying that you had a sponsor. Are you actively working a program for those 9 months?
Different program than most people.
Okay.
I still went to 30 and 30 for the meetings, but I probably went to meetings every day straight for 120 days or more.
Okay.
But my sobriety was involved in my church and God. That's
but
what
whatever you're doing, you were
yes,
doing it.
I was doing it 100%, and that's when I tell people, it's all about your accountability and working a program.
Right.
And a lot of people, they'll try to argue with me about do the 12 steps, do this. But to me, it's really all about having your accountability and where you're doing it. But you have to have it, because you're not going to do it on your own. The guy at my church, associate pastor, he had like 6 or 7 years sober. So it wasn't just like a random stranger, trying to, lead me. It was someone who's been through it, he knows what it takes.
Well, and we're back to, if you can really wrap your head around drugs and alcohol aren't the problem, they've been the solution, they've been a strategy to manage your state. If church is the spiritual malady is the one that you're working on, which ultimately my belief is that that's really what it all boils down to anyway, then you're going past all of those issues. Because at the end of the day, that's what the 12 steps are supposed to do, to get you to the end, get to the past all of that. So if you could find something, church or whatever, but you got to do it.
You got to do it, and you got to find the new you.
Right.
Is it the 12th step is a spiritual awakening, right? Is that right?
Well, the 12th step is giving it.
Well,
giving back,
one of them is saying, is a spiritual awakening.
Right.
Which is what you have to
it's
have.
the ultimate
That
goal.
I'm the problem, it's not the drugs. And that was, like I said, you told me that, and that was the toughest thing to swallow. And I still tell people that.
And what if, even if you didn't own it as this, instead of you're the problem, what if your behaviors were the problem? And then you can change your problems. Change your behaviors, right? So now your identity is flexible in that you can put on whatever. So it's not that, or how about I was the problem? My behaviors were the problem, and now you temporarily give you some freedom, and then once you put that behind you, the past is in the...
And I like that a lot better, because it's hard for people to swallow when you tell them they're the problem.
Right.
They don't want to hear it. But behaviors, it's probably
You're
a lot
not your
better.
behaviors.
Yeah.
You're a byproduct.
Yes.
Your experience is a result of your behaviors, but that's not who you are, right? Like, that's why I said when you were like, I'm a dope fiend. Well, no. You're Barry.
Yes.
You're a human being that may have the malady of struggling with addiction, and we're not going to even argue about that. We know that you're in this room because your life was not where you wanted it to be.
And that's what Palm taught me, was changing my behaviors. They didn't use those words, but that's finally what I got out of it, was when, people go back, it's like they're depressed, they're feeling shame, they're feeling guilt. They're not happy with how they feel on the inside, that they want to change their state.
Right.
Which, another one, Doug McGuirk classes. 5 years later, they still stick with me, and I still tell people a lot of this stuff. And they're like, where did you learn all this? You go, Google or comment. No, Doug McGuirk,
But you can Google that.
You can Google him, absolutely. But it's changing your state of mind, because you're not happy, so you want to go be happy. So you had to figure out other ways to be happy when it used to be the drugs, which you weren't happy, you just temporarily were numb and couldn't feel it. Yeah, exactly. So when you go to treatment, you got to figure out first what your behavioral problems were. What was causing you to go get the drugs? Was it depression? Was it anxiety? Was it trauma you've been through? It could be a list of things. So.
Well, by now you've probably figured out what we've been doing is Miyagiing you.
Yeah. Wax on, wax off.
And that's right. And then it almost doesn't matter what it is, because once you do the work, that's why it didn't happen for you as an epiphany, because you were waxing on and waxing off, and then next thing you realize, like, oh my gosh, I'm getting results. I have a shiny car because I've been waxing, and instead of wondering, worrying, getting mad because you're asking me to do it, screw it, I'll just do it, and trust and have faith in that, and then you own it.
Yeah.
Because you're now owning the results instead of, because you and I, our biggest problem, and everyone who comes to treatment, if you're watching this right now, is your intellect.
It's true.
You're too smart for your own good.
Yes.
So what happens is you get a piece of information and you go, yeah, that makes sense. Now I know that, but you're not applying it.
True. But when you do it for so long, it was just natural to start applying it again.
Right.
Which I didn't know at the time. So it goes back to my roommate's relapse, and I don't know what to do. The next day, the owner of the halfway house, the one that kept changing my bill, I guess he magically knew my budget or something. So he came by and says, hey, when are you coming back to the halfway house? I was like, man, I don't have the money or anything. I just paid for this place. He's like, don't worry about the money. Come back. You can go back to 3/4 status, the status where I was on to where,
So are you telling me that in South Florida, in Delray, there have been and will always be good treatment and halfway houses and...
It's crazy, but it's true. Can't believe
But it was on the internet,
Yeah.
it was on television that there was bad people.
Yeah.
I mean, not only are there bad people everywhere, there are also good people everywhere.
I think you're right, Doug. I think you're right. It's hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, that's a
but
tough
it's
one
true.
to grasp.
But I remember he came up and I packed my stuff up and went back that day. And I hated everybody thought I relapsed. I'm like, no, I didn't. Like,
That was out of love that someone cared for you so much that
Yeah.
they said, let's get a safe place for a minute.
come back. So this time when I was, looking to move out, I got my own place. I learned my lesson that one a lot quicker than the other ones.
Well, and here's the thing. It wasn't wrong for you to find the roommates and do that. What was unfortunate was they relapsed. What was brilliant is you didn't get sucked into it and you did what you needed to do, and then maybe it was appropriate. Okay, turns out I've passed the test. I can be on my own because when I was presented with the ultimate temptation, I was able to bypass and take care of yourself.
And that
So
was an
maybe it's-
aha moment for me when I got into the halfway house. Like, hey, I just made one of the best decisions of my life. Back to a halfway bed, back to hiding my stuff because of the halfway house life. But no, I was back at the 3/4 status, which is when you have freedom. You don't. I didn't have to have the same curfews. I didn't have to do the same meetings. It's because I built that trust of those, 5 months I was there. Is I went to work, I came back, I paid my money, I cleaned my room, I did what I was supposed to. Which there was one incident where you had to keep your air conditioning to a certain level. It's hot in Florida, so I turned it down with all the roommates consented, but the punishment was they take your air conditioning when you get busted for having it so low.
Oh.
So we're all sitting in there hot, so I went out to the owner. I was like, hey, and they had more than one owner. This was the other owner. I was like, hey, it's my fault that the air conditioner was turned down too low. I'm the one who did it. We shouldn't punish the rest of the people in my house. I will take your punishment. And he looked at me. He's like, that is the best thing I've ever heard from anybody who was a drug addict or was a drug addict. Give this man his air back. Y'all find out a punishment for him. And so it was like little victories, like, hey, I'll take it, like take responsibility.
So is that when they chopped your pinky toe off?
That's when I did lose my toe. But we got our air conditioning back.
So that's what's most
And
important.
it was like July. So it's just so hot out there. And the guys I moved in, one of them ended up hanging himself not long after that. We'll talk, about his name later. I don't know if I should just drop people's names, but he came through here, and it's gotten to a point to where when people call me to say somebody dies, like I'm not shocked anymore. I used to be, but that's part of the recovery community. Not everybody gets it, and you can't be distracted by those people. Either bring them back to doing drugs under control is what I hear. Don't worry, it's under control this time.
Yeah, that is so hard. Our prior was in personal development, and we didn't really have that kind of stuff. We fall in love with our clients, and it's so sad that some people, it's like they just don't do what they need to do, and sometimes they continue down the lie to themselves that it can,
They're not ready to take responsibility of being an adult. Of that, hey, my behaviors were the problem, it was still other people. Which ultimately it comes down to you to make the changes. Like treatment doesn't change you by itself. It'll give you every single tool. Like you can see, like Palm Partner gives you every single tool to use.
We can't make you use it.
You can't make you use it. And that's frustrating for a lot of family members and friends because they want to work your recovery for you.
And I wonder, it starts to make me think about sort of the enabling / entitlement mentality that oftentimes is done out of love.
Yes.
Almost always out of love. Where someone is going, oh my gosh, I don't want my child to struggle. Oh my gosh, I don't want, here's a suffering person and so forth. And by not providing the opportunity for someone to take responsibility, like what you just shared, like it probably wasn't until your mother and your girlfriend stopped enabling you that finally put enough leverage on you. And that must have been so hard for them because they're such loving people. How could they let their loved one, their son, their boyfriend, sit in jail of all places? And because it goes deeper, because I don't get too much kind of in a weird tangent here, but oftentimes it's more about them, almost always, than it is about you.
It is.
So, the mom could be like, I can't have my son. What does that say about me if my son is in jail, so I get him out? What does it say about me? My boyfriend is in jail. I got to get him out, because they're more concerned about themselves. And the fact that your mother and girlfriend were willing to be that vulnerable from both angles, the pain, the anguish of someone they love in that situation, plus the optics of it, I mean, that shows huge amounts of love and commitment on their part.
Because you probably say it here, I know Heidi does, you can love somebody to death.
Absolutely.
And if they didn't stop, I never would have been the man I am today. Like, ever. Like, I knew, like, hey, if I don't go to work, I'm not going to have a place to live. I'm not going to be able to eat. Like, everyone's finally done.
Yeah.
Like, I still talk to my mom almost every day, which my other family was involved, but they weren't enabled. Like, they stopped really quick, I mean, my sisters, it didn't take them long. Hey, I'm not doing this.
It's easier for siblings than for parents, for sure.
But my mom, I remember one day she brought me a sandwich and a pack of cigarettes and a Coke.
And a file?
I wish she would have sent that in jail. I could have got out sooner. But because she wasn't going to give me money anymore.
Right.
But she had to sneak behind everybody's back to do that.
Yeah.
Which, now I see, like, hey, that's enabling, but she wasn't going to let me starve.
Right.
But I was hungry, like, to call, like, hey, I'm not asking for money. You please give me something to eat. So that was, a big, which at the time it didn't even matter to me. Like, that I was that low, because I was in active addiction. I didn't care.
Well, let's jump forward into now. So you got out. You've been halfway, three-quarter, all of that. How did you make your way back? Because you ended up working with us.
I did.
For how long?
A little over a year.
Okay. And where was your girlfriend at the time? Still in Alabama, or did she come out here?
No, what happened was while I was in the halfway or right out, I proposed to her while I was back home.
Okay.
So she came to visit one time, and I told Heidi, like, hey, look, we're engaged. And she looked at me like, are you serious? And at the time, like, I was like, why isn't she happy for me? Like, really, it bothered me, like, she's shown so much love. Why is she not happy for me? But now I see, we got married like a day after I had a year clean, but that wasn't the best decision. For, a year clean, that's a great, great accomplishment.
Yeah.
But a lot of people still aren't ready. So no, we got married, and then she moved down with me in December of the next year. So a little after that.
So you got married and you weren't living together.
No, once we got married, the day we got married, the next day she drove down here with me.
Okay, got it.
But no, the whole time we were dating and engaged, she was still up in Alabama.
Okay.
So then we got married. I knew, hey, I got to marry this woman. Like, I need to get her down here. But we were, in love, which I know Heidi can give you all that on another video.
Yeah.
But no, we were in love, ready to be together. And that's when more adulting started, because it finally hit with me, hey, I'm responsible for her now.
Yeah.
When we were just dating, I wasn't responsible for her. But when I got married, I made a commitment to God, to her family, to her dad especially. I'm taking care of you.
And that is such a huge thing. Also, the fact that you did steal from her family, stole from her, all of that. And I mean, that, again, I just got to acknowledge them for their love and commitment to you, and how brave that is for them to do that, because you don't just marry the person, you marry the family.
Exactly. And you have a little girl now. Like, her dad, they have never said one negative thing about me. Now, when I stole from him, he talked to me, but never out of hate or anger. So when I asked for him, hey, can I marry your daughter? it was the first time like he, told me how he felt.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine someone, having
concerned.
a little girl, you're a little concerned, which I know they had to be concerned, which they didn't just say they were concerned or why, but he's like, my only concern is that you take care of my daughter is the only thing I want you to do.
Right.
So that was a big thing. Like you said, you're marrying the family, and,
Yeah.
my family all love her to death. Like, as you can imagine, like, how could you not love her? She stuck
awesome.
with me, great woman. And then we had our first kid. It took us 14 months, but that was another adulting moment. But by then, it was a daily routine of Jerry Egan's being an adult, going to work when I didn't want to go to work, paying bills, a lot of bills in South Florida, but then to take care of another child, which didn't hit me, and probably most men, until they see their baby. That's when you're like, how am I going to keep this alive?
You can't give it back.
No.
Yeah, and I remember the first time when we came home from the hospital and we walk in the house and we've got her in the little thing, and I'm like, they let us home with this. I don't even. What are we doing? Like, apparently you got to feed them.
Yeah.
Like every day.
Yeah.
More than once.
Exactly.
Man, I remember one time adopting a dog. They cared more about checking up on us to make sure that we were not like, we actually had someone randomly show up to make sure we still had the adopted dog. Yet anybody can have a child.
No background check, no credit check, nothing. Just here you go. Here's a big giant bill to pay for it. But I still remember looking over it, like that was an aha moment.
Oh yeah, it's the most amazing thing. Yeah, I don't want it to sound like.
Yeah, it's great.
It's
absolutely. We ended up having another one. Now I have two, a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old. I mean, it's been 5 years.
So, share with us quickly, how do you manage then your stress, right? Because if you understand drugs and alcohol are not the problem, they were the solution. The stress, basically, state management strategy. One child is, well, marriage, add stress.
Yes.
Move in together, add stress. Add a child, and then a second, double the stress. What are some of the strategies that you use to keep yourself grounded, to not sort of lose control, as it were?
Exactly. That's a good thing. And throw on there, my wife's a stay-at-home mom, so she's not bringing in income.
Okay.
Which, taking care of a kid is a job,
100%. Yeah.
But no, I guess sometime during the first kid, stress and things were getting to me a lot. But when I was in Palm Partners, I worked out all the time.
Right.
That and my church were my stress management, which I quit doing that. I gained like 10 pounds. That was also after I quit smoking, was right before the baby, so I even gained weight. But then I was like, I got to get back in shape because I enjoy doing it. I love it. Well, now I do Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu.
Great.
I'm going 3 to 4 times a week. But that's where I relieve my stress, to where I'm on a schedule as much as you can be with a family that, hey, I got to go get my gym time in so I don't go crazy.
Right.
Don't have those thoughts. Like, that's how I deal with it, and that's my time, which I think
huge.
Everybody, some way, whether if you go spend 30 minutes in your room at night by yourself looking at Facebook, which is what my wife does. Like, hey, you've been with go do your Facebook time. Like, everybody needs their own time, and that's why there's not like a straight, there is a formula to recovery, but not like you have to do this, this, and this.
It's self-care, self-love.
Exactly.
It's
and
knowing if you're not getting what you need, figuring a way to get it.
Yeah, because I'm so beat up and tired by the time I get home, from the gym. Like, I'm not stressed about anything. Especially being the new guy in there. It's like, hey, I'm too tired to do anything.
Right.
But that is one of the things that bring me joy. Like,
well, and I will say as well, and not to dismiss the Facebook thing, because your wife, I'm sure, gets plenty of exercise with the little ones, but the physical activity, the physical exercise is extraordinarily important. Like, if you're not moving, your lymph glands are not flowing. Like, it's just really unhealthy to not be active. Yeah. So you're getting double the thing. You're getting the focus, but also the physiology thing. She
does her Beachbody on demand at home, but that's not something she enjoys doing.
You don't have to enjoy it to do it.
But she's doing it because she knows she needs to be doing it. So that's not her happy moment.
Okay.
And it's different for everybody.
But it gives her. But she may not admit it, but it actually is, because it's getting the serotonin, the GABA, the dopamine all flowing, which is so important.
Absolutely.
Right on. So what's the future for you? You've been moving forward on like your career, your family life, your spiritual life. Where are you headed? What are some things that we could look forward to celebrating? If you're coming back, maybe, and like we could hold you accountable. Say, hey, Barry, you said you were going to have this.
Well,
anything we could celebrate with you?
Well, the plan and the goal is to come down 3 or 4 times a year, which I've noticed about myself I didn't know is I stick to schedules, and I get upset when things aren't on my schedule. And my wife's a complete she don't need schedule. She hates schedules. Even before we had kids, like she don't go by certain schedules. But maybe that was part of my recovery, not knowing that, hey, I got to have things a certain order in my head. But another goal is we plan on building a house in the next, hopefully within 2 years.
Okay.
So that's on my goal.
Are you going to be swinging the hammer yourself?
I may swing a little bit just to say, hey, I built this. Okay. I'm a man. I did it.
Yeah.
So that's what's in the future, which I look in the future, but I like living in the moment right now. Right. Like my favorite times are playing with my kids, which involves me laying on the floor, getting head-butted or eating my ear with drool in it, which happened earlier today. But you have to be happy, because if you're just not using, you're gonna go back to it. Like you got to find the things that bring you joy. Now, it don't all come overnight. Like this is 5 years to where I'm at, and I do think in my sobriety and how I moved up is quicker than some people, but some people did it quicker than me. But that's something you got to do, is not just focus on other people's recovery and focus on yours.
Exactly. It's finding your path and being okay with it.
Exactly, and that's what you got to do, and it makes a huge difference to me that I'm not comparing myself to somebody else now. Like, oh, well, hey, they're this old. They already have a house. They have a boat. They have all these things.
Now, as long as you're comparing yourself to you and you say, okay, I did as well as, or if not, a little bit better than I did the moment before, the day before, the whatever. And that's
to have your goals, I think you need to write them out, me personally, because then you see your goals, and then when you write them down, that's your plan.
And you can measure it.
You got to see how you're going to get there. Which I think is huge for anybody, not in recovery, but just life. In life,
and then chunk it down. So break them down at the time. Okay, if this is a longer-term goal, here's what needs to happen in order to do it on the shorter term. And then you can measure the shorter ones instead of like, I'm going to be sober the rest of my life.
Yeah.
No, you just start with day 1, day 3, day 5.
And I had a lot of people in treatment think, I can't picture not drinking a beer. I can't go my whole life without doing that. You can't look that far forward.
That's how you stress yourself out.
When you finally get to that point to where I don't want to have a drink, I don't want to have a drug, I don't find happiness in that. It's people thinking that's where their happiness is.
But they're still going to get cravings. That's still going to...
Oh, it still comes up for a while.
Right. So then how did you deal with that? When there was that craving, when that experience would show up, what were some of your strategies to bypass that?
Which the physical cravings, they go away, after the detox. But the mental cravings, I had to go into the gym, or I had to be around people. As you saw in treatment, I was never off by myself. I had to be doing something goofy, something stupid, keeping people laughing, but I was making myself laugh too. But it was that, I was, either being in the gym or being around other people and feeding off everybody's energy, because that would make me think of that and not the drugs.
Right.
Which a lot of people, there's an argument that goes around, but my mental, I don't have that anymore.
Right.
That's not part of my life where I got to wake up and say, hey, am I going to get high today? Which some people, go that every day. But that's your choice of how you're going to let that affect you when you go down the road.
So what advice would you have? What final words of wisdom from the Bearded Wonder could we cherish and marinate on?
Is to have somebody hold you accountable every single day for a minimum of 6 months. Okay. And then work a program, which is keeping you accountable. But whether you want to do it or not, you need to do it every single day. Like you were saying, Mr. Miyagi, do that every single day for 6 months, because 6 months is not very long compared to 10, 20 years. Well, I tell people that when they're going to treatment, hey man, 45, 60 days is what I recommend to everybody. Like, of course, I want longer, but it's like, even 30, that's short, man. Think you've been getting high or drinking for how many years? Think about 30 days, and most of them are like, that's not that long. But I'm like, take it a day at a time. Take it a minute at a time if you have to.
How do you eat an elephant?
Exactly.
Awesome, brother. Well, we appreciate you so much. If anybody wants to connect with Barry, just reach out to us. I'm sure if you have some questions, he'd be happy to answer. And
Facebook, Instagram, I'm there.
Just out there to spread the love. Awesome. So, Barry, thank you. We love you for who you are and who you aren't. It's always a pleasure and blessing to see you, and you're so blessed. Your family's amazing, and thank you for sharing them as well and bringing them part of this.
Thank you for having me.
It's our honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
So like and share. Spread the love. If something that you were touched by this, please spread the love. Subscribe if there's any more videos, any more that we could do that. If you have any people you'd love for us to talk to or anything you want to share, please be part of this conversation. God bless.